Good morning, students. I am Dr. Shibu N.S., Head of Department of Management Studies, Government Arts and Science College, Perambalur. Formerly, it was Bharadas University College. Today, we are going to see about Unit 2. Now, Unit 2 consists of definition of environment, characteristics of environment, what are the various methods of organization appraisal, what are the methods of other types of appraisal that we are going to see. So let us start with what is the definition of environment. Now, environment, it is an aggregate of all conditions, events and influences that surround and affect the organization. Now, in this definition, we are going to see, or there are three important terms in this definition. It is the aggregate of all conditions. The conditions here refer to the limitation factors in the environment that is affecting our business. Second definition, or the second term in the definition, is about events. The events here refer to happenings in the environment because of competitors, because of government, and because of interaction between various organizations. So this events is also affecting the environment. The third one is the influences. See, because of conditions and events that is happening in the organization and outside the organization, these conditions and events will influence changes in the environment. And these are the three important things, that are three important elements in the definition of environment. So that is about the definition of environment. So when we say definition of environment, it is an aggregate of all conditions, events and influence that surround and affect the organization. That is about the definition. The next one is the characteristics of environment. Now, when we say the characteristics of this environment, the environment is always complex. Now, what do you mean by the term complex? Now, complex here refers to the organization's environment is highly difficult to study, or it is a black box of the organization. Now, why do we say it is complex? Because there are various factors affecting the organization. Like, for example, you have financial environment, you have government's environment, you have competitors' environment, you have suppliers' environment. All these will combinedly or jointly or standalone way they will affect the environment. That is why your environment is always considered to be a complex one. Second characteristics of environment says about your environment is always dynamic in nature. Now, what do you mean by the term dynamic here? The dynamic is, at this stroke of movement, your environment is not the same at the next stroke of that time. Or what we mean to say is, what is the environment today will not be the environment tomorrow, or what is environment now will not be the environment tomorrow, because there are various factors affecting the environment. As we told in the definition itself, you have lot of other elements like financial environment, dynamic financial environment, competitive environment, suppliers environment. All these are going to affect your environment. That is why your environment is always changing in nature. That is why environment is always dynamic in nature. That is the second characteristics of environment. Now, third characteristic of environment is your environment is multifaceted in nature. Now, what do you mean by the term multifaceted? The multifaceted here refers to your environment has different phases in different times. At some point of time, you will find that the financial environment is highly influencing one. At some point of time, you will find that your competitors' environment is highly influencing you. That is why we mean to say it is a multifaceted one. The environment has different phases and it will show all these phases at different points of time. The fourth characteristics of environment, it is a far-reaching impact. Now, what do you mean by the term far-reaching environment? We see the effect of environment will have a far-reaching impact. Now, this far-reaching impact is, it will affect all the strata of the environment. Like, for example, it will affect the top management, it will affect the lower level management, it will affect the middle level management, it will affect all the persons associated with the environment, right from your supplier till your customer. That is what we mean to say it has a far-reaching impact. So these are the four important characteristics of environment. Now, the next topic in this environment is you have external and internal environment. Now, before going into this external and internal environment, let us look what it is. See, every organization has two different types of environment. One is an external one, another one is internal one. What is this external and internal environment? See, the external environment is an environment that is outside the organization or outside the boundary of the organization. An internal environment is an environment which is inside the boundary of the organization or which is within the organization. So what we mean here is when we say an internal environment, this internal environment can be controlled by the organization itself. What do you mean by this controlling the environment by the organization itself? Like for example, prices, like for example, the suppliers, like for example, the packaging, like for example, the other elements within the organization, like for example, the raw materials quality, all these can be controlled by the organization themselves. That is why it is called as an internal environment. Now, second one is the external environment. Now, the external environment is an environment which cannot be controlled by the organization themselves, or it is beyond the control of the organization. Now, when it is beyond the control of the organization has no other way to do just to face that external environment. Now, what are those external environments? Like, for example, competition, the economic policies of the government, your competitors' strategies. All these are the external environment which an organization cannot control, which can be just faced by the organization. So, wherever an organization is said to exist, these two environments are said to exist, and always there is an effect of external environment into an organization's internal environment. So always, and prices, competition, the government policies, all these things are external, and this will have an effect in the internal environment. So that is a small introduction about what is this internal and external environment. So the next one, the external environment of an organization includes all the factors outside the organization. The external environment includes all the factors outside the organization, and these factors will provide opportunities and or it will pose threat to the organization. So what do you mean by this? The external environment will provide an opportunity for an organization to fight back, to win the competition, or it will also pose a threat to the organization, thereby it will lose the competition. Now, internal environment includes all the factors within the organization, and this internal environment will provide strength or it will cause weakness to the organization. We are going to see all these things one by one. So let us look at the next slide. Now, as we told in the previous slide, we have told about strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Now, let us look at the definition of all these things. First one is an opportunity. Now, opportunity, it is a favorable condition on organization's environment, which enables organization to consolidate and strengthen its position. Whenever there is an opportunity for an organization, it enables an organization to consolidate and strengthen its position in the market. Now, what do you mean by this consolidation and strengthening the position? For example, I give an example of an opportunity. Opportunity for an organization is, for example, your competitors' low R&D skills. Your competitors' low R&D skills is an opportunity for your organization to consolidate and strengthen your position if you have a good R&D lab for your organization. Now, that is an example, a good example of an opportunity. Now, second one is a threat. Now, threat is considered to be as an unfavorable condition which will create risk or cause damage to the organization. What do you mean by this unfavorable condition? This unfavorable condition is a condition which no organization prefers to have. Because of this unfavorable condition, it will create a risk or it will cause a damage to the organization. For example, your competitors' low cost of employee. That is considered to be as a threat for your organization if you have high cost of labor. That is the second one. The third one is the strength. The strength is considered to be as an inherent capacity. The term itself says it is an inherent capacity which organization can use to gain strategic advantages. For example, your superior R&D skills. So next one is your weakness. It is an inherent limitation or constraints which creates strategic disadvantage. For example, the plant which is situated away from your customers. For example, you might have a production plant which is situated some few crores of kilometers away from your customers. No, some 1,000 kilometers away from your customers. So what happens here is the company has to spend on transportation of raw material, transportation of your finished goods to the nearest depot, which is away from your customer. So these are the four things that is primarily considered during the study of internal and external environment, which includes opportunity, threat, strength, and weakness. So when you develop a SWOT analysis, it helps in matching your strength and weakness inside the opportunities with inside the organization with the opportunities and threat. Now, how do we match all these things? See, the strength is matched with the threat of the organization. Weakness is matched with the opportunity of the organization. So, one positive thing, like for example, strength is matched with the threat of the organization, threat which is a weakness of the threat which is a negative point of the organization. So, a positive aspect and a negative aspect is matched so that you will have an overall effect of positive. But I again repeat, there are certain things like, for example, inherent limitation, as I told just now. Whatever things that you try to match, your inherent weakness cannot be removed. That will be always there in your business. So next part of your environment is general environment and relevant environment. Now these two things or two elements of your environment are highly important one when you study your organization's internal and external. Now, what is this general environment? General environment includes all the factors of external environment, which includes international economy, national economy, local economy, technology, social changes, demographic variables, and political systems. Now, what does it mean? See, these are the environment which all the organizations are going to face. But this environment or these elements of environment or factors of environment will have a degree of impact in different organizations at different levels. The next line I go, what is the relevant environment? But the immediate concern of any organizations are confined to just a part of general environment, which is highly strategic relevance to the organization. I explain what is this. See, general environment is an environment that is affecting all the organization or that is part of an organization. But what part of general environment is affecting your organization is varying from one organization to another organization. Like for example, your BSNL might have a general environment, your Reliance, your Jio might have a general environment, but what part of general environment is affecting your BSNL is different from what part of general environment is affecting your Jio. That part of an environment is known as a relevant environment. So each organization will have its own relevant environment, which is derived from the general environment. So general environment for every organization or all the organizations in an industry is same. But the relevant environment for each company or each organization varies, but it is drawn from general environment of an industry. So the next one is, what are those environmental factors that is affecting or environmental sectors that is affecting? See, there are 8 different environmental sectors. They are market environment, technological environment, supplier environment, economic environment, regulatory environment, political environment, socio-cultural environment, and international sectors. We are going to look into one by one what it is. So I repeat, there are 8 different environmental sectors. They are market environment, technological environment, supplier environment, economic environment, regulatory environment, political, socio-cultural, and international sectors. Let us look at one by one what it is. So the first one is your market environment. The market environment has 3 major factors affecting, like for example, customer factors. In customers factors, we have preferences, likings, dislikings, all these things of liking, disliking, preferences, all these things of customers will affect the market environment, or customers likes, dislikes will affect your customers, will affect the market environment. First one. Second one is your product factors. The second market environmental factor is your product factors. Factors of your product, like for example, the size of the product, color of the product, the packaging of the product, the attributes or the raw materials that you add for the product. All these things are the product factors which will affect the market. The third one is your competitor related factors. Now, what are these competitor related factors? Now, when we say the competitors related factors, it includes different types of competitors in the or existing in the market. Next one is the nature of competition that is existing in the market. Now, let us take up an example. See, in automobile industry, earlier it was the seller's market where customers have to wait for a long period of time. But now it has become the buyer's market where companies resort to various sales promotions and technology to promote and sell their unsold goods. To make this example still more clearer, see, when Bajaj introduced its scooter into the market, customers have to wait for long months. It may go to years also. But over a period of time, this gradually changed into buyer's market where customer doesn't have to wait. They can just step into the dealer's showroom, pay across the table, take their product away from the showroom. Now, this is a critical or good example of a competitor-related market, right? Competitor-related factor. Now, the next one is about the next factor or the next environmental element is about the technological environment. See, all the factors related to knowledge is applied, and materials used in this consists of factors that are related to knowledge applied and materials used in the production. Like for example, rising fuel prices. Because of increase in prices of fuel, companies and customers run towards taking up a fuel economy vehicles, or they look for fuel economy vehicles. So companies have to shift their technology towards development of vehicles which consumes low fuel. So what happens here is companies are more oriented towards technology for producing or for giving a fuel economy vehicle for customers. Let us look at the next one. The third environmental sector is the supplier environment. The supplier environment consists of various factors like continuous availability and supply of raw materials and cost associated with it. Continuous availability and supply of finance. Continuous availability and supply of energy. Like for example, I'll explain the supplier environment with an example. See, the road transport is considered to be as one of the important factor in developing that economy. The problems faced by these sectors are loss owing to high tax on vehicles, tires, diesels, spare parts, poor condition of the roads, fuel wastage due to bad conditions of the road. All these plays an important environment in the suppliers side. Right? That is about the third one. Now the fourth one is about economic environment. The economic environment consists of 4 important elements: it consists of the economic system in the country. This is self-explanatory. What is this economic system in the country? Second one is the economic planning. The economic planning consists of, for example, earlier we had 5-year plan, 10-year plans of the organization. Now it has been shifted, or now it has been removed, and we have a new economic planning system like Niti Aayog in our country. The third one is the economic policies of the country. Country's economic policies will have a major impact in the environmental sector. Like for example, various sectors, like for example your telecom sectors, like for example your infrastructure sectors, all these sectors, your economic policies can be, for example, 49% your local person or an Indian origin, 51% a foreign origin. All these things are affecting the economic environment of the organization. Now, the fourth one is the economic indices. The economic indices of the country will have a major impact in the economic environment. Now, what are these economic indices? Like, for example, GDP, like, for example, the purchasing power. All these things are economic indices which will have an effect in the economic environment. And the last element of your economic environment is your infrastructure. Now, when you have a good infrastructure, it will have a direct impact in the economic environment. Like, for example, good roads, good water supply, good electricity, good transportation facilities. All these things are having an effect in the economic environment of the country. Now, next one is about the regulatory environments. Now, regulatory environments are law related to the country which will have an effect in the environment. Now, what are these law related ones? Now, first one is country's own regulations. Second one is international regulations. Third one is local policies. Fourth one is regulations related to licensing, imports and exports, patent right markets, etc. Now, what is this? First one is about country's own regulations. Our country will have our own regulatory regulations. Like, for example, you cannot run your business on Sundays. After end of every 5 days, you should shut down your business for a holiday for 1 day. All these things are our country's own regulations. Now, international regulations. International regulations are regulations which is prevalent in most of the countries, which is considered to be as uniform regulations. Third one is the local policies. Like, for example, you have to pay your local taxes. Like, for example, you have to pay your panchayat taxes. All these things are considered to be as the local policies, which is related to the regulations. The fourth one is the regulations related to licensing. Each country will have their own licensing systems. Each country will have their own import and export policies, and they have their own patent and trade, and finally the markets. All these will be in line with the international regulations of the international that is available in the globe. Now, the next regulation, next environmental sector that we have is the political environment. Now, the political environment is said to be as the various environments or various factors that we have here is the political system existing in the country. Next one is the political processes and philosophy, and the next one is center-state relations. Now, under political environment, we have the political system that we have in the country. This will have an effect in the environmental sectors of the organization. The second one is the political processes and their philosophy. Each political parties will have their own processes, so they have their own philosophies. Because of these political processes and philosophy, it will have a major impact in the environmental sector. Now, some political parties will have an effect. Some political parties will have a philosophy of open market. Some political parties will have a philosophy of having a restricted markets. This will have an effect in the environment. The third one is your center-state relationship. Center and state will have a major impact in the environmental sector. Each state will have their own rules and regulations in relation with the center. So this is how this political environment will affect your environmental sectors. See, the next one is your socio-cultural environment. Now, socio-cultural environment include demographic factors, your social customs, beliefs, attitudes, lifestyle habits, family structure, and work ethics. Now, what is the socio-cultural environment? Each country or each region will have its own demographic factors. It will have its own social customs. It will have its own beliefs. It will have its own people of particular region will have their own attitudes. People at their own regions will have different lifestyle habits. People at different countries will have their own different family structure and their own different work ethics. All these will have an impact in the environmental sectors of the organization. Finally, the last environmental sector that we have is international sectors. Now, international sectors here refer to trend in the global trade, global financial system, global demographic patterns, global information systems, regional economic blocks, and direction of globalization. All these are considered to be as an international sector that is affecting your environment. So, to sum up, we have seen 8 different environmental sectors or environmental factors or environmental sectors that is affecting your business, which includes that we have seen just now: market environment, technological environment, supplier environment, economic environment, regulatory environment, political environment, socio-cultural environment, and finally international sectors. So these are the 8 different environmental sectors that we have seen just now. Let us look at the next topic. So we have studied about the various environments that is affecting our business. So the next topic we are going to see is about environmental scanning, or how do we scan our environment. Now let us look at what is this environmental scanning. It is a process by which organizations monitor their relevant environment to identify opportunities and threats affecting their business. See, there are 4 major terms in this environmental scan. First one is organizations monitor. So what happens here is there is a continuous watch of the environment by the organization. That is what we mean here, monitoring. What do these organizations monitor? Monitor their relevant environment. See, in the previous 2-3 slides before, I told general environment and relevant environment. That is the point here. They will monitor their relevant environment. What for? To identify their opportunities and threats. So environmental scanning, in short or in layman's language, we say that organizations are monitoring the relevant environment to identify wherever opportunities exist and to face the threat if an organization is having. So that is about the definition of environmental scanning. The next one is when you go for environmental scanning, you have to look into what are the factors for this environmental scanning. That is your next topic. What are the factors to be considered for environmental scanning? See, there are 4 major factors to be considered during environmental scanning. These are events, trends, issues, and expectations. Now, what is this? Events, trends, issues, and events, trends, issues, and expectations. Now, let us look what is this event. Now, events are important and specific occurrences taking place in different sectors. I'll explain all the 4 factors with an example. So, first we'll see what it is, then we'll go for an example. So, events are important and specific occurrences which are taking place in different sectors. Next one is a trend. Trends are general tendencies or course of action along with the events that take place. Now, third one is the issues, which is these are considered to be as current concerns that arise in response to events and trends. Last one is the expectations. Expectations are demands made by interest group in light of these trends. See, these 4 factors are one-to-one related. Every event will lead to a trend. Every trend will lead to an issue. Every issue will lead to an expectations. So this is how these factors are considered during environmental scanning. Now let us take up an example. Now, everybody have heard about this Bhopal gas tragedy. It has took place in the year of 1984 in Bhopal. I am taking that example to explain this factors affecting environmental scan. See, everybody know that the accident that took place in Bhopal is an event. Because of that event, the trend is that, or the general tendency is that, on the part, general tendency is to be very conscious about being safety from various hazards. Now, because of this trend of being conscious about safety from hazards, it leads to various issues. Issues like environmental pollution. That is an issue because of that Bhopal gas tragedy. Now, because of this issue, it leads to expectations. Expectations are made by general public that government should be more vigilant and tighten its rules and regulations whenever such companies are given licenses. So to sum up this example, Bhopal gas tragedy has happened is an event. Because of that event, the trend is the government should be very conscious in being highly safety precautions and safety regulations about hazardous industries. Now, because of that particular trend, issues are, or because of that particular trend and events, the issues are the environmental issues or environmental pollutions. Because of this event, trends and issues, the expectation from the general public was that the government should be very vigilant and it should bring in strict, or it should impose strict rules and regulations whenever such type of industries are being given license. So that is about your events, trends, issues and expectations. Now let us look at the various approaches to environmental scanning. Now there are three different approaches towards environmental scanning. They are systematic approach, ad hoc approach and process to form approach. Now what is this systematic approach? See, in this approach, information for environmental scanning is collected very systematically. Now what do you mean by this? Information related to organization's business, information related to government policies, information related to market and customers, information related to changes in legislations and regulations. All these information that are collected is said to be as a very systematic approach. Now, when we say a systematic approach, what does an organization do? Organization will very systematically, or it will always look into information related to organization's business. It will be very vigilant in collecting information related to government policies. It will be very systematically collecting information related to market and customers. That is why this approach is considered to be as a systematic approach. Now, second approach that we have here is an ad hoc approach. Now, what do you mean by this ad hoc approach? Now, ad hoc approach is, in this approach, organizations conduct special surveys and studies to deal with specific environmental issues. Now, what does it mean here? See, apart from collecting or apart from having a systematic approach, or apart from organization going through a systematic approach, organizations will conduct very special surveys and studies to deal with certain specific environmental issues. Our organization will carry out specific studies and surveys to tackle or to study or to deal with specific environmental issues. The third type of approach that we have is a process to form approach. See, in this approach, organization uses information in a process to form available from different sources, which is available from both inside and outside the organization. Or organization will use the information which is available from different sources, like for example, organizations, newsletters, international research organization publishing various information, your World Health Organization publishing reports, your defense forces publishing information, your organization, Niti Aayog's study reports. All these things are considered to be as a process to form information that is available for the organization for an environmental scanning. So to sum up, what we have seen in approaches to environmental scanning is you have three different approach: systematic approach, ad hoc approach, and process form approach. Now let us look at the next one. What are the sources of information for this environmental scanning, or the various sources of information that we have for environmental scanning are, you have 6 different sources. The first one is your secondary sources. The secondary sources include publications like newspapers, magazines, newsletters, trade and industry association newsletters. All these are considered to be as the secondary sources. These things are self-explanatory. The second one is your mass media. Mass medias include radio, televisions, and internet. Or these sources are considered to be as the sources that you take up for information for your information scanning. The next one is your external sources. Sorry. The external sources include customers, suppliers, government agencies, and trade association. Now, all these are no way related to your organization. Like your customers who are indirectly related, suppliers who are indirectly related, or who are not in relation with your organization. What I mean here is they are not part of your organization, but they are in direct relation to your organization. So these are considered to be as an external sources for your information for scanning. Next one is your internal sources. The internal sources include company files and documents, management information systems, databases, and company employees. Now, what is it? What is this internal source? Companies will carry out various studies, or companies might have carried out various researchers to find out what is happening in the environment. All these are considered to be as your company files and documents. Your management MIS of your organization, your databases, DBs of your organization, and your company employees. All these are considered to be as your internal sources. Next one is your formal studies. Or formal studies are those which are conducted by employees themselves under the guidance of your management, market research agencies for studies. These are the formal studies that is being taken up. And the last one is spying and surveillance. This is an interesting one. Spying and surveillance of competitors' organizations by using ex-employees. Or what we do is we spy and surveillance of your competitors' business by using their ex-employees. So these are the 6 different sources of information that we take for information scanning. So what are the sources that we have seen just now is internal and external sources, secondary sources, internal and external sources, secondary sources, mass media, formal studies, spying and surveillance. Next one is, what are the various methods and techniques used for environmental scanning? See, there are 9 such methods that we take up for studies. These are simple variable extrapolation, theoretical limit analysis, dynamic modes, mapping, multivariable interaction analysis, unstructured expert opinion, unstructured unexpert opinion, structured expert opinion, structured unexpert opinion, speculations. So these are the various techniques that is used for environmental scanning. We look into one by one what it is. First one is simple variable extrapolation. See, all these things are beyond the things that we done. All these are considered more of mathematical and economic one. But still, we should have a general idea of what it is. The first one is simple variable extrapolation. The simple variable extrapolation is we take up one simple variable, we try to extrapolate beyond the time, beyond the limit. The next one is theoretical limit analysis. We try to find out what is the limit within which one variable will give a proper result. Third one is the dynamic modes. What are the various dynamic modes that we have during environmental scanning? Fourth one is your mapping. And the last one is multivariable interaction analysis. And the next one is unstructured expert opinion. Structured, all these are self-explanatory. Structured unexpert opinion, structured expert opinion, structured unexpert opinion, and finally speculations. Now, the speculations, under speculations, we follow a model known as QUEST, or we call it as a quick environmental scanning analysis, or we call it as a QUEST analysis. Now, this is a very popular one. So, these are the various methods and techniques used for environmental scanning. Next one, organizational analysis. Till now, we have previous slide we have seen about your environmental analysis. So from this slide onwards, we are going to see about organizational analysis. Now, organizational analysis is primarily done to identify the organization's strength and weakness. Now, organization analysis is otherwise called as an internal environmental analysis. Now, this organization analysis refers to all the factors within the organization. I repeat the word, it is factors which is within the organization that influence its capacity to achieve its strategic intent. So, all the factors which is affecting the organization to reach its strategic intent, that is what we mean to say as an organizational analysis. Now, so what is the strategic intent? We have seen in the previous class. Now next point in your organization analysis is this is primarily done to determine the capabilities of the organization, or what is the maximum capabilities that an organization can go. This is what we do in your internal environmental analysis. So to sum up, your organization analysis is primarily done to identify the capabilities of your strengths and weaknesses within the organization. Next one is what is the process of organizational analysis? See, there are various steps associated with the process of organizational analysis, or organization analysis can be carried out by using these 5 such different steps. The step 1 is identify the key factors. The organization will have various key factors, but the major key factors during organization analysis include organization structure, organization's management pattern, personnel, finance, marketing, and manufacturing. These are considered to be as the key factors for an organizational analysis. Now, assessing the importance, second step says assessing the importance of these factors. See, in the previous step, we have told some 6 major key factors. Now, in this step, what we are saying is we are going to assess the importance of these factors. Now, all the factors that we have identified in the step 1 are not important. And those factors which contribute towards achievement of results are only taken into consideration. Like, for example, for some organization, personnel might be considered to be as an important factor which help in achieving the results. Some other organizations, like for example, a manufacturing organization, for them, manufacturing is considered to be as an important factor towards achieving the results. Like for example, an after-sales service organization, for them, sales is considered to be as an important factor towards achieving the results. So from organization to organization, these important factors vary. That is why we mean to say we assess the importance of factors. By assessing the importance of factors, we land up with major factors only. The third step is evaluating the strength and weakness of key factors. Now, what does it mean here? Evaluating the strength and weaknesses of factors that we have identified in step 2. Like, for example, as I told you just now, under marketing, we said sales, for if it is a sales organization, we said after sales service is an important factor. Now, in the third step, it says if a factor is making a positive contribution towards achievement of objectives, then that strength is considered to be as a key factor. So what we mean here is, if the key factor that you identified under step 2 is giving any positive contribution towards achievement of objectives, then we say that that is considered to be as a strength. Now, if a factor that you identified under step 2 is making a negative contribution towards achievement of objective, then that is considered to be as a weakness of a key factor. So what we mean to say is, having identified the factor under step 2, we go further to find out whether those factor is making any positive contribution or whether it is making any negative contribution. If it is making a positive contribution, then we mean to say that is the strength. If it is making a negative contribution, then we mean to say that is the weakness of a key factor. That is step 3. Now, step 4 says preparing organization capability profile, or we mean to say OCP. After analyzing or after identifying the key factors and analyzing whether it is giving positive or negative impact, then we prepare your organization capability profile. Based on strength and weaknesses of identified factors, we go for preparing OCP, or we mean to say organization capability profile. Next step is relating organization's capability profile to strategy. So what we have done here is we have identified various capability profiles, and these capability profiles are related to strategy. Now, how it is related? We have identified that certain factors are strengths and certain factors are weakness. These strengths are related to a strategy because it is having a direct impact in the strategy. But there are certain factors we have identified that it is weakness. So what we do here is we try to convert those weaknesses into positive by relating it to another positive one. So that is what we mean here in this one. So what we do here in this final step is we relate your organization capability profile to a strategy. Next topic that you are going to see is how do we develop the strategic advantage, or how do we develop competitive advantage for your organization. Now, developing strategic advantage or developing competitive advantage goes into studying organization's resources, organization's strength and weakness, organization's synergistic effect, organization's behavior, competencies and capabilities. Or when you study your organization's resources, when you study your organization's behavior, when you study the synergistic effect, when you study competencies and when you study capabilities, through that you will be able to identify your competitive advantage or strategic advantage. Now let us look into one by one what it is. So the first one is your organization's resources. Now, organizations' resources are tangible and intangible ones. Now, those organizations which possess a superior resource and which can produce more effectively, leading to strategic advantage, then we mean to say that is developing your strategic advantage. For example, an organization which possesses resource of high quality, organization which possesses a resource of low cost or an adequacy of resources have a strategic advantage in comparison to your competitor. So what we mean is your organization resource can develop a strategic advantage over your competitor if an organization resource is of high quality, low cost and adequacy of resource. That is the first point. The second one is your organization's behavior. The OB refers to manifestations of various forces and influences operating within the organization. The term itself says there are various forces and influences operating inside the organization. These forces and influences are organization's climate and culture, organization politics, and organization power. All these shape your organization's behavior. Like, for example, the culture of the organization determines whether your organization has a strategic advantage over your competitors. Next one, your organization's politics and power determine whether your organization has a strategic advantage over your competitors. Your organization's climate will determine whether you have a competitive advantage over your competitors. That is about the second one. The third one is your strength and weakness. As we have seen previously, strengths are inherent capability which organization can use to gain strategic advantage over your competitors. Now, weakness is an inherent limitation which creates a strategic disadvantage for your organization. So, under this competitive or under the strategic advantage, your strength is considered to be as can be used to gain strategic advantage. Weakness can be or weakness creates a strategic disadvantage. Examples include low cost of capital. This is considered to be as a strength for your organization. Second example is your inexperienced management, which creates weakness for your organization. So, under strength and weakness, sometimes your organization has a low cost of capital, which can be used as a strategic advantage over your competitors. Now, if an organization has an inexperienced management, that is considered to be as a strategic disadvantage for your organization. That is the third one. Now, the fourth one is your synergistic effect. Now, the term synergistic effect itself says 1 plus 1 is equal to 3, or it is not 2, but it gives a combined effect which is more than the individual effect. That is what we mean to say as a synergistic effect. Or synergistic effect says a combined effect of two elements will give an added effect when these two elements act separately. That is what we mean to say 1 plus 1 is equal to 3 and not 2. For example, when a marketing department and production department support each other, then we mean to say there is an operating synergy existing in these departments. I'll give an example. Consider that a marketing department is developing a product. A production department is carrying out a production process for a product, or it is going for a dry production process. It produces some product and it hands over to the marketing department to get a feedback from the market. So, production department is in relation or in support of the marketing department to get a feedback from the market about the product that is produced by the production department. So, what we mean to say here is there is a synergistic effect existing between these two departments. Wherever and whenever an organization has a synergistic departments or synergistic effect in an organization, then that is considered to be as a strategic competitive advantage for an organization. That is the third one. The fourth one is competencies. Now, competencies are unique quality that enables an organization to withstand competitive pressures in the market. So what we mean is this is a unique quality which helps an organization to withstand a competitive pressure or competition in the market. That is considered to be as a competencies. So there are two such competencies. Let us take up the first one, core competency. Now, core competency is an enduring strength that makes significant contribution to end product for customers, provides potential access to wide variety of markets, and it is difficult to imitate. So the core competencies has three characteristics. It is those competencies should make a significant contribution for a customer in its end product. It should have potential access to wide variety of markets, and it is very difficult to imitate. These three, when an organization has these three, then we mean to say that is a core competency. For example, your Honda Motors. Honda Motors core competency is the best auto engine that it is having. And your Sony Corporation. Next example is the Sony Corporation, which core competency is producing miniature products. That is the first one. Now, the second competency that we have is a distinctive competence. Now, distinctive competence is a unique capability that an organization possesses exclusively over its competitors. Now, what we mean is it is a unique capability that an organization possesses, which no other competitor is having. For example, I have written wrong. It is not low cost production. It is a low cost production. Next one is ability to mobilize huge resources. So low cost production is considered to be as a distinctive competence of an organization in competitor in relation to competitor, and ability to mobilize huge resources is again a distinctive competence which no other organization can possess. So that is about the distinctive competence. The next capability that we have in our organization is our organizational capability. Now, organizational capability is an inherent capacity or the potential to use its strength over weakness, thereby face threats in the internal environment. So what we mean here is this organizational capability is a point where organization can use its strength to overcome its weakness, as we have seen in the SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, SWOT analysis. What we have seen is organization capability is a process whereby organization can use its strength to overcome weakness, and using that they can face their threat in the external environment. That is what we mean in organizational capability. So to sum up, the strategic advantage cannot be achieved merely by having some capability. It is important how this capability is used. So I repeat again, strategic advantage cannot be achieved merely by having some capability, but it says how this capability is used. I'll give a good, interesting example. See, Raymond's is considered to be as a strong in textile business. So in the year of mid of 80s, what Raymond's did was it entered into cement business. It faced a heavy loss in cement business. It exited from the cement business. I repeat again, it is strong in textiles. It entered into cement business. It made a huge loss. It exited from the business. The example, through this example, what we can understand is the company Raymond's had a strategic advantage in terms of textiles, but it did not know how this capability can be used. So what it did was it entered into cement business. It made a loss there. So to sum up, strategic advantage is merely not having a capability, but how do we use them? Your next one is, what are the methods and techniques of organizational analysis? See, there are 4 different methods and techniques of organizational analysis. First one is your internal analysis. Next one is your comparative analysis. Third one is your comprehensive analysis. And last one is your SWOT analysis. Now, under internal analysis, we have 3 different methods or techniques. We have BRIO, Brew Model Analysis, Value Analysis Method. Third one is your quantitative analysis. Under quantitative analysis, we have financial analysis and non-financial analysis. So we look into one by one what it is. So let us start with what is this internal analysis. Internal analysis, first method that we go for BRIO analysis. BRIO. B refers to valuable, R refers to rare, I refers to imitable, O refers to organized for use. This is what we mean to say as BRIO analysis. Now let us look what is this BRIO. First, B refers to valuable. Now valuable are considered to be as capabilities that enable the organization to generate revenues by capitalizing on opportunities or to reduce cost by neutralizing threat. For example, the ability to produce high quality after sales service. Now what we mean here is it is a capability to enable the organization to generate resources by capitalizing on opportunities, thereby neutralizing threat. Here in this example, organization's capability is providing high quality after sales service. That is what we consider to be as a valuable one. Second one is a rare one. Rare here refers to capabilities that one or few firms in the industry exclusively possess. Like for example, highly motivated workforce of Honda Motors, or highly motivated workforce of different organizations. That is the first example. Second example is capability of Honda Motors to build high quality cars at relatively low cost. So these are considered to be as a rare capabilities of an organization. So this rare is example is highly motivated workforce. Honda Motors capability to build in high quality cars at relatively low cost. Third internal analysis Brio is I. It says about imitable. These are capabilities which competitors cannot duplicate. Even though they go for a duplicate, it is only at high cost. For example, excellent corporate image that organizations have. These corporate image is considered to be as a non-imitable one or which cannot be duplicated. Still, if an organization goes for duplication, then it will be at their high cost. That is about imitable. The fourth one is your organized for use. Now, organized for use these are capabilities which an organization can use through its appropriate structure, business process, control and reward system. Or what we mean to say is organized for use has four different things: appropriate organization structure, appropriate process, control and reward system. All these are considered to be as the usage also. For example, ability of your competent R&D personnel and your research lab to bring innovative products. See, there are two things here. You have your competent R&D lab. You have your competent research personnel. These two things, because of usage of these two important things, we can bring in innovative products. That is about the organized for use. That is about the Brio. The second one is your value chain analysis. This is an interesting one. This value chain analysis is developed by Porter's value chain analysis, or it is famously known as Porter's value chain analysis. Now, this value chain analysis is used to measure how each activity in your chain of production or in your chain of service is creating value to the customer. This is known as a value chain analysis. So each activity in your production process or in your service process should create some value to your customer. Now that process is known as your value chain analysis process. Now value chain analysis process has primarily two different activities. First activity is your primary activity and your second activity is your support activity. Now let us look at what is this primary activity. Now, primary activities are those activities which is related to creation of a particular product or service. Now, under primary activity, you have four different things. It includes inbound logistics. What is this inbound logistics? Inbound logistics include receiving, storing, transportation, and inputs of production process. Now, it includes receiving of your raw materials, storing raw materials, transporting the raw materials for your production process. These three things are considered to be as an inbound logistics. Now, what does value chain analysis say here? When you receive your product or when you store your product or when you transport your production inputs for your production process, there should be value addition in all these processes. How do we add value to the products? Or how do we add value to receiving? How do we add value to storing? How do we add value to transporting is what we mean to say as a value chain analysis. Second thing under your primary activity is your operations. All the activities involved in transformation of your production process. Now what we mean here is conversion of your raw material into your finished products is known as your operations. Now what are various things that you can add into your conversion process so that you can add value to your product? That is what we do here. Third one is your outbound logistics. Now, outbound logistics include all the activities used to receive, store, and transport finished products. See, you receive your finished products, you store your finished products, and you transport your finished product. All these are considered to be as outbound logistics. What value you are adding to all these things? Or how can you add value to all these things? That is what we mean here. And your next one is your marketing and sales. all activities used to market and sell products to customers. Like for example, you can go in for good advertising strategies, you can go in for good add-ons, selling of products. All these things are considered to be as all the activities that you can use. And your last one in your primary activity is your service. All activities used to enhance and maintain a product's value. Enhancing and maintaining the product's value is considered to be as your service. Now, these four things are considered to be as a primary activity. See, inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. These five things are considered to be as a primary activities. For this primary activity, or to run successfully your primary activity, you need support activities. Now, support activities are those activities which provide support to primary activities. Primary activities are the five things that we have seen just now cannot be done successfully without this support activity. Support activities have four different sub-activities. First one is your firm's infrastructure. Firm's infrastructure includes accounting, finance, and legal. Second one is your human resource management. This includes recruitment, selection, and training. Next one is your technology development. This includes R&D, product design, and equipment design. And your last one is procurement. It says about obtaining raw materials, parts, supplies, machinery, and equipment. See, what we mean to say here is this: your accounting, your recruitment, your R&D, and your raw materials. All these things are the activities which take place at the back end of your primary activity. So all these cannot be seen in a very blunt way, but this will aid your primary activity in your value chain analysis. The second thing that we have here is your quantitative analysis. So in this quantitative analysis, we have two important things. One is your primary activity. Second one is your financial analysis. Second one is your non-financial analysis. Under financial analysis, we have first one, ratio analysis. So ratio analysis, we have four different ratios. We have liquidity, profitability, leverage, and the other activity ratios. So this is considered to be as an important analysis, but this also has certain restrictions. Now we have some 23 different formulas under ratio analysis. Through that, you will be able to identify all these things. Second one is your economic value added analysis. Under economic value added analysis, this measures the profitability in terms of return on capital over and above the cost of servicing the capital employed. So what we mean to say here is it measures the profitability in terms of return of capital over the cost of servicing the capital. For example, your cost of capital can be, for example, at 8%. Over and above the 8%, what is the returns that you have gained? That is known as an economic value added one. That is what we mean to say as economic value added analysis. Third one is your activity-based costing analysis. It is otherwise known as an ABC analysis. This helps to measure the cost of each activity in the value chain. Previously that you have seen, various activities that you have, primary activity, secondary activity. For all these things, what is the cost of each activity in your value chain? This helps in identifying whether particular activity can be added or particular activity cost can be brought down, or whether any particular activity can be replaced by another activity whereby the cost can be brought down. Such analysis is known as an activity-based costing. The second type of this one is your qualitative analysis. Under qualitative analysis, we have, it includes corporate image, corporate culture, and employee morale. So what do you mean this? What do you mean by this? See, under qualitative analysis, you will be able to identify your organization's this one, or you will be able to identify, or you will be able to analyze your organization based on your employee morals. You will be able to identify or analyze your organization based on your corporate cultures that organizations follow. Right? That is about your qualitative analysis. Okay. Next one is your comparative analysis. Under comparative analysis, we have two important analysis. First one is the historical analysis. This is very important one, even though this looks very old one, but this is considered to be as a very important analysis. What we do under historical analysis is we go in for organization strength and weaknesses in comparison with the organization itself over a period of time. For example, we try to compare the strengths of the organization and weakness of an organization under different time periods. For example, 5 years from now, or previously 5 years, 2015 to 20, what 2010 to 15, what were our strengths and weaknesses? From 2015 to 20, what were our strengths and weaknesses? Whether the strengths of an organization has improved or whether the strengths of the organization has declined. All these things helps to go for an organizational analysis. Next one is your industry norms. Each industry has certain norms and standards for key parameters of performance. The performance level of the firm can be compared with the norms of the industry. For example, cost level of production cost levels. What I mean here is the production cost levels of Hyundai can be compared against the cost standards in the car industry. Car industries have their own standards. Hyundai can compare its cost level with this cost levels, whether this is a strength for them or whether this has become a weakness for them or whether they have exceeded their standards in relation with the industry standards or whether they are nearing to the industry standards can be done here. Next one is your non-financial analysis. Now, under non-financial analysis, this includes employee absenteeism and turnover, advertising recall rate, production cycle time, service call rate, and also we have inventory turnover rate. Now, all these things refer to a non-financial one. Let us look one by one what it is. The first one is your employee absenteeism. Now, under employee absenteeism, it says the rate at which an employee is leaving the organization, rate at which an employee is number of employees leaving the organization. All these things will affect an organization's analysis. Second one, what is your advertising recall rate? How many advertisements you have posted in the how many advertisements you have released and what is your recall rate of these things? All these things will have an effect in the organization's analysis. Next one is your production cycle time. Whether your production cycle time has increased over a period of time or it has gone down. That is about your non-financial analysis. The next one is your benchmarking. Now, under this benchmarking, we have some three different benchmarkings. Let us look one by one what it is. So the first one is benchmarking. What do you mean by the term benchmarking? It is a reference point for measurement and comparison. Now, what you do in benchmarking? It is a process of identifying, understanding, and adapting outstanding practices from within the same industry to help to improve the performance. So, what we do here is we are comparing the processes of our company with the industry practices. Like, for example, what you do is you identify, understand, and adapt those outstanding practices of the industry so that you will become the industry's benchmarking. See, there are various types of benchmarking for different industries. Now, again, we mean to say a benchmarking is it is a reference point of comparison. Organizations of same industry will compare their own practices, will compare their own performances, will compare their own best methods in relation to the industry. That is what we mean to say here as a benchmarking. See, there are first type of benchmarking is performance benchmarking. Under performance benchmarking, what we do is we compare one organization's performance with the industry's best performance. For example, Hyundai will compare its performance with the best performance of the industry. For example, Maruti, or for example, your Honda. That is what we mean to say as a performance benchmarking. This performance can be in terms of sales. This performance can be in terms of production cost. This performance can be in terms of after sale services. This performance can be in terms of the other factors. So performance benchmarking is the first one. Next one is your process benchmarking. Under process benchmarking, what we do is we compare best methods and practices that an organization is following with the industry's best practices. So what we do is we compare the methods and practices of, for example, Hyundai will compare the methods and practices that it is following with the benchmarked one. For example, the benchmarked best and practices can be, for example, Maruti Suzuki's one. So what Hyundai can do here is they can compare the methods and practices that it is following with the benchmarked practice of Maruti Suzuki. That is known as a process benchmarking. The third one is your strategic benchmarking. Under strategic benchmarking, what you do is we compare one's strength with the industry's best one. So what we do here is we compare the organization's strength with the industry's best strength. So this can be, for example, low cost capital that we get. Under low cost capital, whether the cost of capital that we have received is in reference with the benchmarked cost of capital is what we do here, right? Now the next type of this one that we have is in terms of next one that we have is in terms of the strategic advantages that we have, and the next one is that we have is comparative analysis. Comprehensive analysis. Under comprehensive analysis, what we have here is key factor analysis. Now, under key factor analysis, the first thing that we have is we try to identify the key factors that an organization has. Or what we do here is we identify the key factors. For example, the cost of production, the production time that we take, the materials resources planning that we have, all these are considered to be as a key factor. We go in to find out whether the key factors can be the best one in the organization. So first thing that we go in for this one is your key factor analysis. Under key factor analysis, factors which are having a positive impact for an organization. For example, sound capital structure. All these are considered to be as an important positive impact for the organization. First one is your key factor rating. Under key factor rating, this gives a holistic view of your performance of an organization. That is the first one. The next thing that we are going to do in this comprehensive analysis is your balanced scorecard. Balanced scorecard method is a comprehensive method of analyzing an organization's strengths and weaknesses. There are 4 key performance indicators in your balanced scorecard. The 4 performance indicators are financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business process perspective, and finally the learning and innovative perspective. Now let us look into one by one what it is. The first one is your financial perspective under balanced scorecard. Now financial perspective says, how do shareholders look at our company? That is the financial perspective. Next one is your customers perspective. How do customers view our company, or how do customers see our company? Third one is your internal business process perspective. Where does our company excel, or where we must excel in business? That is the third one. Fourth one is your learning and innovative perspective. Under learning and innovative perspective, it says, can we improve and create more value to our customers? So these are the 4 key performance measures that can be identified in your balanced scorecard. That is the four. These are the four important things. And the last one is about SWOT analysis. Under SWOT analysis, S stands for strength, W stands for weakness, O stands for opportunity, and T stands for threat that you have seen in the beginning of this session itself. Now, strength is a competence with an organization which enables an organization to gain an advantage over a competitors. Now, this is the four definitions that you have seen already. Now, let us look at what are the various strengths of the organization. What can be various strengths of the organization? The strengths of an organization can be good corporate image, favorable location of your plant, wide distribution network, good or ample reserves and surpluses that you have, and your ISO certifications for your organizations. That can be strength of your organizations. Next one, the various weaknesses that an organization can possess can be inexperienced management that I told in the previously itself, the example. High cost of production, high prices, poor relationship with bankers and financial institutions. These can be the weakness. So it can be inexperienced management, high cost of production, high prices, poor relationship with banks and financial institutions. This can be your weaknesses. Next one is your opportunities. What are your opportunities, or what can be opportunities for your business? This can be liberal government policies, existence of niche markets, reliable foreign partners, and increased education level of your customers. This can be opportunities. And finally, the threat. The threat can be intense competition from your competitors, political instability in the countries that you are operating your business, stagnant demand for your products in the market, rising customer expectations from your products. So these can be all your threats for your organization. Now, what are the various advantages of having this SWOT analysis? It is simple and it is inexpensive. Now, another important advantage that it has is it gives a complete picture of your organization. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? It gives a complete picture of your organization. It is highly flexible and it can be used in a small size organization, mid-size organization, and in large corporations also. Finally, it is the basis for strategic analysis. Now, with this, we come to an end of your organization analysis and appraisal. So, to sum up, what we have seen is we have gone into two important things: organization's appraisal and environment, organization appraisal and analysis, environmental appraisal and analysis. So, we have done internal analysis and external analysis of your business. With this, we come to an end of your unit 1. In the next session, we will go for unit 3 and 4. Thank you.